Kenyan markets closed today for the country's Independence Day celebrations, but we focus on that day specifically. It marks 49 years since Kenya was declared a republic. Celebrations are underway even as the country prepares for the general elections in less than 3 months. World Bank estimates a 2% drop in Kenya's GDP from the current 4.3%, and that due to political ramifications. ABN's Laban Clift Onserio spoke to Adams Ulu, who's a political economist from the University of Nairobi, on the implications of politics on the economy.
I think that one thing that Kenyans will regret, even as they mark 49 years of independence, is that we became a nation with a lot of optimism and promise about unity. But you'll find that 49 years later, the country is still very ethnicized. And I'm sure Kenyans envy Tanzania, their neighbor, which, having been independent for 50 years, has kind of built a mosaic fabric of nationhood, which Kenya has not been able to do. And I think Kenya is still looking for that leader with the vision of, say, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere or Nelson Mandela, to also be born in Kenya, so that they too can make that step.
We're looking at the biometric voter registration kit, trying to kind of bring in clarity or actually openness in these elections. What's your view on this BVR kit?
Thanks to the intervention of the cabinet, we have the BVR kit here with us. And I think that the challenge that is currently being experienced 81 days to the election is that the politicians who are very good on the platform are yet to mobilize the voters to meet the estimate of 18 million voters that IEBC had projected. In fact, they have had to scale it down to 12 million. But I think what people are not considering is that although we won't have dead voters in the list, I think that the counting might still be an issue. And therefore, I don't think that people should treat the BVR as the alpha and omega of solutions. Instead, one would expect them to keep an eye on everything and be the gatekeepers on that election day.
But it's hoped that this BVR kit will actually bring in, open and fairness in these elections.
That's the hope. But you see, skeptics will also say that even in countries which have long electronized their voting systems, like the United States of America, everybody still remembers Florida 2000, and yet that's a very, very developed country, and yet it experienced some mishaps with the system. So I don't think that we can sit on our laurels and say that now that we have the BVR, nothing can happen.
Great. We're looking at the diaspora vote, and right now the diaspora remittances account for over 74 billion, while the government has locked them out of this year's voter registration. I don't know, what do you think we're shooting ourselves on the foot?
I don't think we're shooting ourselves on the foot. I think that we should be realistic about this. That for the first time, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 did allow diaspora Kenyans to vote in the election. But we also know that an infrastructure for them participating had not been laid down before. And the fact that IEBC is young in office meant that they were doing a lot of things within a very short period of time. And you find that even the courts had to be called upon to rule on this. And I think the courts did rule that that provision should not be taken as being instantaneous, but rather should be one which should be implemented progressively. And therefore the IEBC, in its own wisdom, and I think the cabinet agrees with them, decided that the only diaspora Kenyans who will vote in these elections are those who are within the East African region or East African community, for that matter. I think they sat down and looked at the viability of doing it, and I think they came to the conclusion that they don't have the necessary infrastructure. I think they asked themselves this question: do we go ahead with it and make a mess of it, or do we once more make the diaspora or disenfranchise the diaspora, which is the lesser evil. And they decided that we would rather keep them off and not mess it, rather than mess it and have Kenyans go at each other again.
Many investors are actually taking the wait and see approach, for what comes in March the 4th. I don't know, what should they keep on that, or you're hopeful that these elections will actually come out peaceful?
Since the last post-election violence, a lot has been done, especially on the agenda for reforms. We have a new constitution that is progressive. We have police reforms that will ensure that violence is curbed or nipped in the bud. We have a reformed judiciary so that those who feel that they have a dispute or are not agreeable with the verdict that shall have come can go to the courts and have their cases resolved there. We have the Truth and Justice and Reconciliation Commission, which is coming with a report. We have the National Cohesion and Independent Commission that has been at the forefront of trying to curb hate speech. So I think you can say that a lot has been done, and although we haven't reached there, you see some issue-based politics creeping in, although ethnicity is still strong. And therefore, I want to be on the optimistic side of it and say that the investors should remain calm. They should not be scared away. They should not take a wait-and-see approach. In fact, they should pump money into the civil society and the media to educate the people on the necessity to have a free, fair, and peaceful election.